Good day, guys! Welcome back to another video lecture. So for this specific lesson, we are going to cover modern genetics. If you could remember, no, katong last na video nga akong gi-upload, we talked and learned about non-Mendelian genetics. So examples of this are patterns of inheritance that do not actually coincide from the results gikan sa pea plant experiment ni Mendel. So we learned about incomplete dominance, co-dominance, and multiple alleles. So what I did last time is, ang ako lang i-appeal atong video lecture is katong coverage ninyo for pre-final exam. So karon kani nga video lecture will actually cover the last half of that specific topic. So mo to siya. So you will be introduced to another patterns of inheritance that are classified as non-Mendelian, kaya nga non-Mendelian or modern genetics. So aside from that, you will be introduced to another tool or technique used by biologists and geneticists to study patterns of inheritance. So this lesson will specifically cover pedigree analysis, a little bit of genetic recombination. So nganong a little bit lang, kibali pahapya or introduction lang. It's because naamang we separate ng module or chapter for this, in which we are going to discuss in the future. And then, of course, lastly, we are going to learn about sex-linked traits. So as we go along learning about sex-linked traits, you will be introduced to some examples of sex-linked disorders. So kaninga lesson, dari ninyo ma-realize to nga naadi mga specific genetic disorders that are exclusive to a particular sex. So you will learn why is such, okay? Why does this happen? Okay, so if you'd like to learn, please continue watching. And then disclaimer, again, I am not in a professional studio. So if you hear some background noise, pasensyahin na lang, okay? So let's continue. Now, I think you are familiar with this picture that you are seeing on the screen right now. Maybe some of you have already seen it. Maybe some of you have seen this for the first time, like right now. So this is actually a test done to people to assess whether they have deficiency with color vision. Okay? In short, ginatest niya if ang isa ka tao kay color blind ba siya. Okay? So this is called the Ishihara Test. Some of you might have friends from the maritime, from the pre-baccalaureate maritime senior high school nga kailangan sila muagi ani because it's actually a very important assessment though before they could proceed to take the course. Okay, if they fail the Ishihara test, they could not continue with the said program. Okay, so if you could, there are actually numbers embedded in each circle. So gituyo na siya nga naay mga colors nga gikuan kana murag colors na gi-combine. If you could see the numbers, pasabot na your vision is okay. Kibali your color vision is okay. So if you could see 12, 8, 6, 29, 57, 5, 3, etc. Pasabot na your vision is okay. So if you are having a trouble seeing the numbers, then maybe I am not diagnosing you na ha, but maybe it could be an indication that you are having a trouble in identifying certain colors the way normal people would. Okay, so why are we talking about color blindness? It's actually an example of a sex-linked trait. Okay, so later on when we go through along this discussion, you will learn more about sex-linked disorders or color vision deficiency or CVD. Okay, so let's proceed with the first part of the lesson. We will be talking about pedigree analysis. Dili ni siya katong pedigree nga bahog sa mga pet dogs. Okay, so lahi ni siya nga pedigree analysis. So if you could remember, we learned about the Punnett square. So it's one tool used by biologists to study genes, genotypes and phenotypes, diba, from a particular cross, if monohybrid pa or dihybrid. So a pedigree analysis, I think you have seen what a pedigree chart looks like because I have given you your lesson packet and your worksheet beforehand. So it's actually a genetic tool, specifically the pedigree chart. So a pedigree chart is one of the very important tools. Did I say genetic tool? I mean, it's a tool It's one of the very important tools in studying human genetics and the patterns of inheritance. So, one of the differences lang ni Nia between the Punnett square, kaya ang Punnett square is squared it siya, and then you can see the genotypes, you can see the phenotypes, and then mga possible ratios in studying the square itself. Ang pedigree, mga good guys, ang pedigree chart or pedigree diagram is like a family tree. So, it uses symbols, it uses it uses symbols, and these symbols can actually mga indications kung say pasabot kung babae ba ni siya or lalaki, unsa nga what kind of relationship that these two individuals have, so on and so forth. Okay, so as I have mentioned earlier, it is similar to a family tree. It uses symbols to show one's family history. Aside from the relationships, no, aside from the family relations, it also shows family history and the phenotypes of each member. Now, some instructors would ask you to write genotypes and phenotypes of each member, but for this specific video lecture, for my subject, I will just be discussing, or will be learning just the basics lang of on how to analyze a pedigree chart or pedigree diagram. So understanding the pedigree chart will help you identify relevant medical facts about certain traits or diseases as well as family history. So aside from studying ka na mga traits that are present in a particular family or in a particular clan or generations in a family, you could also actually trace examples of kana mga medical facts or kana genetic disorders that run through the family. So through a pedigree chart, actually you can use this to predict nga, okay, if this genetic disorder is present in this generation, na ay mga possibility or na ay mga chances or probabilities that it will appear in the next generations. So this is how pedigree charts and diagrams are actually important tools in studying patterns of inheritance. So you can use the pedigree chart again to note the genetic disorders that some family members have. So thus you can somehow predict if the offspring would have a good chance of inheriting the genetic disorder if one of the parents has the trait. Okay, so this is an example of a pedigree chart with its sample problem. So let's try to analyze each part of a pedigree diagram. Okay, so let's try to read first the scenario or the problem set. So Juan married Maria and had 4 children. The eldest is Flora, followed by the twins Nino and Nina, and their youngest is Eliza. Eliza married Samuel and gave Juan and Maria their 2 grandsons, Juan and Miguel, who happen to be identical twins. Maria and Nino are colorblind. They have trouble seeing the same colors as non-colorblind people do. Now, let's try to dissect or analyze each part of the pedigree chart, if or kung which is which. Kinsa ni siya, so on and so forth. Okay? So, basically, you will, through this kind of part of the lesson, you will learn on how to actually construct a pedigree chart. Okay? So, isa-isahon nato. Juan married Maria. So, ang technique ani guys is always gid ka mag-start sa left to right. Okay? Para dili mo mawala sa passing. So, it says here Juan married Maria. So, you would assume nga sila ang first generation. Okay? So in this part here, you could assume that Juan is kaning square, okay? And then si Maria kay kaning circle. So if you could differentiate the shapes, you could see nga si Juan daw, I will try to write. And then this is Maria. So if you could compare the shapes, no? Si Juan is represented by a box and then Maria is represented by a circle. Okay, so we could assume that in a pedigree chart, dili siya assume, mugini siya ang rules gyud. In a pedigree chart, males are represented by boxes or squares, and then females are represented by circles. Okay, so they had 4 children daw. The eldest is Flora, followed by the twins Nino and Nina. Okay, so and then the youngest is Eliza. So if you could see this line here, kana siya, that connects Juan and Maria, that's what we call the mating line, okay? Mating line, pasabot ana, they are in a union, they are a couple, husband and wife, okay? So that's a mating line. So pasabot ana, they are, kung sa Bisaya pa na minyo sila or they are partners, okay? So they had 4 children. We have Flora, and then the twins, and then Eliza. So kung atong i-follow again ang flow, so this one here is si Flora, and then we have the twins, Nino, and then we have Nina, and then we have the youngest, Eliza. Okay, so if you could follow the rules, ganina nga akong gimension regarding the boxes or the symbols. So Flora makes sense, di ba? Kasi Flora, babae man siya. So it's represented by a circle. And then Nino, lalaki, so it's represented by a box. And then Nina and Eliza are both female, so they are represented by circles. Okay? Eliza married Samuel. So it's si Eliza na minyo daw siya. Okay, so Samuel, this is Samuel here. So he is represented by a box. So as you can see, nanapod ang mating line. Okay, again, because they are a couple, they are united. They have a union. Okay, and they gave Juan and Maria their 2 grandsons, Juan and Miguel, who happen to be identicals. Okay, don't be confused. Okay, kay duha ka bukang Juan dare. We have Juan senior and then we have Juan nga apo. Okay, so Juan and Miguel, they are identical twins. So this is Juan and then this is Miguel. So they are both males. That's why they are represented by boxes or squares. Now, it says here that they are identical twins. So do you see this symbol here? Kanimurag triangle and then naimurag line. This is the symbol representing identical twins. Now, how would you know that the twins are identical? Usually if pareha sila og sexes. Okay? That's actually the muna gitudlo gyud sa ato, di ba? Usually pag identical twins kay pareha sila og sexes. But actually I have discovered nga dili sa tanan instances na identical kay pareha og sexes. Naay mga identical twins nga babae ug lalaki. Okay? So that's Juan and Miguel. And then Maria and Nino rather are colorblind. Okay? So pasabot ana, they have a trouble seeing colors on how normal people do. Okay, so they are colorblind. Now, if you could notice, si Maria o si Nino are represented by shapes that are shaded. Okay, as you can see, no, you can see if you could compare from the others. So pasabot anak guys, when you see a symbol that is shaded in a pedigree chart, pasabot anak, they are affected individuals. Okay, so if it's unshaded, it means they are unaffected or they are normal individuals. It means that they don't carry the trait. They don't have the trait. Okay, so mana siya. That's how you use symbols in a pedigree chart. So aside from that, we also have the line here, kaning gina-point by letter B, kanang naay letter B nga naka-label. So that's actually the sib-ship line. When you say sib-ship, pasabutan na igsuon sila. Okay? So another symbol, if you could see here, kani siya, the symbol between Nino and Nina, it says here that they are also twins, but they are non-identical or they are fraternal twins. Fraternal? They are non-identical twins. So, if you can see the difference between the symbol of sa identical twins, na ay line ang sa identical twins, okay? Ang sa fraternal twins, kay walay line in between. So those are the symbols used in a pedigree chart. So aside from that, how do we represent generations in a pedigree chart? Using Roman numerals. Okay, so do you see these numbers here? These indicate kung pila ka buok generations are there in a pedigree chart. So basing from this example, we have 1, 2, 3, pasabot na there are 3 generations. Now, naay mga instances nga ang mga pedigree charts kay walay label or walay pangalan kibali sa kada individual. So instead, they use numbers. So that's why, wait, let me just clean this out. Okay, that's why if you could see, kada symbol kay naay number. Okay, so for example, let's start with the first generation. So you start from the left to right. That's how you number the individuals. So you have 1 and then you have 2. Now, let's proceed to the second generation. You could notice no wala siya nagpadayon og 3, 4, 5. Instead, nag-start siya over with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you don't continue with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. That's not the right way to name individuals or to number individuals in a pedigree chart. So, and then let's proceed to the next generation, to the third generation. As you can see, nagsugod na po siya sa 1. Okay? So, you have 1 and 2. Now, again, if your instructor, if your teacher would ask you, kinsa nga individual ang blah 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 blah, so how do you identify each individual if wala siya pangalan? Dili po pwede no nga magpataka ka og pangalan sa ila or bunyagan nimo sila, di ba? Kani si Cordapia kay or kani si Cordapia or kani si Zoraida and so on and so forth. So instead, we use the number of generation and then a number of individuals in naming specific individual. So for example, how do you name this individual here? Do kabalo to nga si Maria man ni siya, but what if wala siya pangalan, okay? How do we know or how do we identify this individual here? So this is how you do it. You write the number of generation, since naman siya sa generation 1, and then ang iyang number. So that's, oops. I'm sorry, let's disregard that one. It's 1, okay, not just first generation, and then you write dash, and then the number of individual, okay? So this individual here is Monisha. Okay, another example, how do we name this individual here? Kanisha, in which we all know kasi Samuel ni siya, di ba? But what if walay pangalan? So you just have to write the number of generation he is in, so that's 2. And then, unsa siya nga number of individuals, so that's 5. Sorry, I'm just using a mouse. I don't have a drawing tablet. Okay, so this individual here is Monisha. Okay, so that's how you identify individuals in a pedigree chart. I hope you were able to follow. Okay, let's have practice problems here. We have sample number 1. Some groups of people in rural Kentucky are affected with a skin disorder called blue offspring, where the skin appears to be bright blue. The pedigree shows people who have this disorder. Now, you might over-visualize it. No, are you talking about Smurfs, mom, or Avatar? But there's actually a family in Kentucky, the Fugates. They were the first generations to produce, or to have, rather, the blue offspring disorder. So this is how they look like. This is the father, this one right here, and then he has the blue offspring disorder, and then he married a normal woman, as you can, I mean a woman with a normal skin color rather, and then normal woman, and then they had children, as you can see in the picture. No, they have bluish skin, so that's blue offspring disorder. So basing nagtuo mo nga nagyaw-yaw ra ko, I mean, nagstorya na kung magic na rin, nagpataka na kung storya na rin. This actually exists, okay? If you have time, you can research on them, the Fugates from Kentucky. So actually napay ka ng proceeding generations nga nag-come after them, nga that still illustrate or that still show the blue skin, pero dili kayo siyang una na naka-blue, parehaan eh. Okay? Now, let's try to answer some of the questions. Okay, how many individuals have the blue offspring disorder? Now, how would you know kung pila ka buk individuals ang I'm sorry. How would you know kung pila ka buk individuals in the chart or in the diagram ang naay disorder or blue offspring disorder, or they possess the particular trait? So if it's shaded, di ba? So pila makabukang shaded na rin? So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 individuals that have the blue offspring disorder. Now, that will be, look at 1, 3, and 1, 4. So before that, let's try to identify pila ka generations. So we have 1, we have 2, and then we have 3 generations. So it says here 1, 3, and 1, 4. So this is 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1, 3, and 1, 4 is kanisi lang duha. Okay? Now, neither of these people have the disorder, because as you can see, they are unshaded. But their last daughter, 2, 8, does. What does this tell you? What does this tell you about the disorder? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Now, 2, 8. Modone. Ang ilang last daughter, na si 2, 8, kay she has the blue offspring disorder. So what does this tell you? So balik ta sa question. Sa Bisaya pa na. Ngano daw nga si 2, 3 o si 2, 4 nga wala man sila blue offspring disorder, pero how is it possible nga ilang anak kay na ay blue offspring disorder. Okay? So, this must mean, class, that these two parents are actually heterozygous with a particular trait. Okay? So, pasabot-an na they had the butang recessive siya. They had the recessive trait kikan pa siya sa ilang previous ancestor. Okay? For example, if we do the cross, so heterozygous man silang duha, di man pwede nga makuan man siya, di man pwede nga homozygous dominant man siya because again, nigawas man sa ilang offspring nga na isa sa ila nga na ay blue offspring disorder. So butang that these kaning silang duha kay heterozygous, so let's use letter B. So if you do the Punnett square, so you just do the cross. Okay, so three of these phenotypes kay normal and then nay isa dari nga naay blue offspring disorder. So possible nga kani siya nga genotype mo'y nakuha ani ni 2A. Okay, so that might be the explanation why naa siya blue offspring disorder. Okay, sample number 2. The pedigree shows individuals affected with achondroplasia. It's a type of dwarfism. This is a dominant trait in humans. Okay? Butang in this problem set, it's a dominant trait in humans. So this is how children with patients with achondroplasia look like. So as you can see, it's a form of dwarfism. So stunted ang ilang growth, and then there are some body structures or parts that are not developed the same way normal children have. Okay, so let's try to answer some of the questions. How many people have the trait? So again, how do you know if they have the trait? If it's shaded, if the symbols are shaded. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so the answer is 6. How many females are there in the second generation? So para di mo malibog, let's identify pila ka generation. So you have 1, you have 2, and then you have 3. So how many females daw on the second generation? So kani siya. So again, how would you know a female if circle ang iyang symbol? Okay? So you have 1, you have 2, and then you have 3. So you have 3. Now, some of you might answer 2. Okay, mo may shaded, but wala man gi-indicate nga affected female. Ang giingon raman kay females. So, apil ni mo i-count ang normal. Okay, or ang unaffected. Letter C, how many males are there in the third generation? So this is the third generation. So how many males? How would you know nga male gani if box or square ang gigamit? So you have 1, you have 2. Okay? So, wala na siya. It's very simple. That's how you try to analyze. That's how you analyze a pedigree chart. Okay. Now, let's proceed with genetic recombination. So, it is the process of recombining genes to produce offspring with traits that are different from those of their parents. So, nice separate nga topic for this, in which we will be discussed in details in the future. Don't worry, within this semester lang yapon. So, it involves the exchange of genetic material either between multiple chromosomes or between different regions of the same chromosome. So, ang gakaita mo ani class, kinaay mga traits or genes nga gakwaon in a particular chromosome, tapos i-recombine mo siya in another chromosome. So, it could be nga gikan siya from another offspring, gikan siya from another species or another individual to another individual. Okay? So that's genetic recombination. So the genetic recombination could happen naturally, or it could also happen through the use of technology, okay, or biotechnology. So how does it happen naturally? Through the process of crossing over during meiosis, okay, or formation of gametes during meiosis. So if you could remember, na isa ka phase sa meiosis in which tinandaya ang mga chromosomes or ang homologous chromosomes, pareha ni, for example. Okay? So, ang resulting dayon nga, ang resulting nga chromosomes kay na ay combination of kanang genes. You can see this one here, blue-blue pa siya. Pagkauman niya o crossing over, na siya combination nga blue o pink nga genes. Okay? By the way, genes are not colored blue or not colored pink. These are just representations so that you could, understand what really happens. So as shown in the figure, the chromosomes that are passed on to the offspring are combinations of the chromosomes of the parents. Okay? So, butang, kaning blue chromosome is putang kaning blue chromosome kay gikan sa imong papa, kaning red nga chromosome kay gikan sa imong mama. So during the crossing over na igakahitabo nga kani siya crossing over. So if you can see the result, diba? Dili na siya pure blue, na siya combination nga red, then kani siya dili na siya pure red, na siya combination na blue. Okay? So that is how genes are being combined through chromosomes. That's through genetic recombination. Okay, let's proceed to the last one. We have sex linkage. So it is sex linkage is a special pattern of inheritance in which it applies to genes that are located on the sex chromosomes. Now, we have autosomes. Autosomes or body chromosomes. Kani sila nga mga chromosomes kay na ay mga genes nga naka-embed diha. And then we also have the sex chromosomes. Gitawag siya nga sex chromosomes because it denotes or it it signifies kung unsa nga sex ang isa ka individual. Okay, makes sense, diba? Yeah, it determines if an individual is male or female. So you would know that an individual is female if it has both X chromosomes, and female siya if it has one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. Okay, please remember that. Pag female, X and X. Pag male, X and Y. Okay, so if you could notice the difference between the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, butang kani siya sa males. What do you see? What do you notice in terms of size? Okay, so you would see that Y chromosome is smaller than the X chromosome. Okay, take note of that. Kinana siya na important concept. Ngano di ma'am kung mas gamay ang Y chromosome sa X chromosome, na important concept about that. Okay, so different kinds of sex-linked genes are found in the X chromosome. Makes sense. If you could compare the size between the two, mas dako si X chromosome kaysa kang Y chromosome. So pasabutan na it's possible nga mas dagan genes ang located sa X chromosome. Okay? So because of further studies involving sex chromosomes, more than 100 sex-linked genetic disorders have now been mapped and classified on the X chromosome. The Y chromosome is smaller than the X chromosome and it contains only few genes. Okay, that's what I have been mentioning earlier. So for example, sa X chromosome, there are genes that code for ocular albinism, na a gene that code for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, na gene that code for androgen insensitivity. So, i-compare nimo mas dagan ang genes nga naa sa X chromosome, i-compare nimo sa Y chromosome. Okay, so this is a micrograph. So this is an X chromosome. This one right here, it's way bigger than the Y chromosome. Okay, let's learn some examples of sex-linked disorders. So we have CVD, katong mentioned ako ganina, color vision deficiency or color blindness. So this refers to the inability of an individual to distinguish certain colors. So there are 3 human genes for this, and then they are located on the X chromosome. However, one of these genes kay defective. That's actually the reason why CVD exists or happens, okay? Out of those 3 genes, ang isa ato nga genes kay na ay defect or defective, muna siya that produces the phenotype of color vision deficiency. So this disorder is mostly associated with males because they have only one X chromosome. Okay, balik ta sa chromosomes, no? So, ma'am, nganong mas common siya sa male compare nimo sa female? Okay, so ang explanation for that actually is since mas daghan ang genes sa X chromosome, i-compare nimo sa Y chromosome, and then females have only one X chromosome and Y chromosome. Once this gene is expressed in the X chromosome, automatically they will have the phenotype of colorblindness. Ma'am, sa females lugar, ma'am, kasi sa females, ma'am, good, if you could remember, there are 2 X chromosomes sa females. They receive 2 X chromosomes. So for them to express color blindness, dapat ang duha ka X chromosome should contain the gene that is defective that should contain the gene that codes for CVD or color vision deficiency. Okay? Dili pareha sa males nga once ang isa niya ka X chromosome kay contains the gene of CVD, automatically it will express color blindness. Whereas sa female, since there are two X chromosomes man, kailangan both of them should have the gene. Kailangan homozygous gibali siya. Okay? If one of the X chromosome gikan sa if one of the X chromosomes from the female individual is only if isa lang ka X chromosome affected with the gene, it will not express the phenotype. It will not express color blindness. Kailangan both of the X chromosome should have the gene. Okay? So that explains why. Now, this is a diagram showing the color spectrum. Magdepende sa person with a particular color vision deficiency. Actually, dagan na sila nga klase. Okay? Natagitawag nga color blindness nga deuteranomaly, protanomaly, protanopia, and so on and so forth. So, maglahi-lahi ang ilang color vision. Okay? So, kaning first nga color spectrum here in which, according to Google, 92% of the population kay kanang normal ang vision when it comes to colors or seeing colors. And about 2.7% of the population kay has deuteranomaly. So this is how they see the colors. For example, if it's on the red part of the spectrum, they see it as somewhat orangey brown. If it's yellow, it's like almost white na gyud siya, di ba? So, if it's pinkish, for them, it's a little bit purplish. Okay? That's how they see colors. And then we have achromatopsia. Kani siya I think this is the worst. Kay wala, black and white man ginang kakita. And from 100 part of the population, it's like less than 0.0001%. So I think it's not that common. Okay? It's very rare. So this actually I think this is the most difficult. I mean, obviously, no, kay wala na gid sila kakita nga color. It's just plain black and white. Okay? So, here, katubalik ta sa katong Ishihara test. So, if you have a normal vision, this is how you see the colors. You would see number 6 and you would see 74. But if you have a protanope vision, or deuteranope vision, you won't be able to see the number at all. If you have a tritanope vision, you can see the number, but you don't see the colors the same way normal people would. Okay? So if sa normal vision you see black and green specks, in tritanope vision you see black and gray specks. Okay? If in normal vision, if you see red and orange specks or kaning mga tiny circles, in tritanope vision you'll just only see red. Okay? That's color blindness or color vision deficiency. Now, the last one is hemophilia. It is a disorder related to blood clotting. So, the reason why this happens or this exists, it's because na gene nga code for a particular protein that is very helpful for blood clotting. So, ang individual nga na hemophilia cannot code this gene for this specific protein for blood clotting. So people with this kind of disorder can bleed to death from just having minor cuts. Kibali gamay lang nga samad kay grabe na ang ilang bleeding because again they don't have this protein. They cannot code this protein nga mo facilitate or would initiate blood clotting. Blood clotting is essential kay para again dili magawas-awas ang imong dugo if masamad ka. Okay? So they may also suffer internal bleeding. How would you know nga worse ilaha kay you would know that they are bleeding internally kay grabe ang bruises sa ilang lawas. Okay, so I will be showing you pictures. By the way, sa katong mga sensitive kaayo, I am warning you right now nga you might see some pictures that are too graphic for you, so you can skip this part of the video and then we can move on na dayon. Okay. By the way, before that we have, I think you're familiar with her. If not, she's actually Queen Victoria of England. She's actually hemophiliac. Okay, so yeah, Queen Victoria of England was hemophiliac. Okay, as you can see, these are examples of patients with acquired hemophilia and their bruises. Dili lang siya kanang matag nga bruise lang, nga kanang pasa, nga kanang, sabi ito, gakakuha na to normally nga example, kanang mabangga ka. Ang ina kay, it really looks bad. Okay? So internal bleeding, hemophilia. So this is how it happens, no? People with normal blood clotting, people who people who are normal, kay bali people who don't have hemophilia for short, kay we have these coagulation factors. Okay, these help in clotting or facilitating blood clotting. Okay, so magtapok na sila diha para ang blood dili na makagawas. Okay, para ang wound kay mag-clot na. Pero people with hemophilia, they don't have these coagulation factors. So what happens? Mag-awas-awas lang ang blood outside the blood vessel. So the wound won't clot. Okay, walay blood clotting nagakahita po. So this is just an illustration on how hemophilia is being transferred from generation to generation. Okay, so for example here, if we have parents here, ang father kay normal siya, and then ang mother kay carrier. When you say carrier, pasabot ana, one of its X chromosome kay naay or contains the gene for hemophilia. So these are the possible offsprings nga ilang ma-produce. If it's a son, then these are the possible offsprings that they would be able to produce. Son that is normal, a daughter that is a carrier, and then a son with hemophilia. Automatic man yun na siya may hemophilia, guys. Kay, again, isa ra ba yung X chromosome sa mga males, and then they have the Y chromosome. So once they have the gene in their X chromosome, automatically they will express hemophilia phenotype. And then they have a daughter that is not a carrier, rather she is normal. Okay? So what if ang parents kay ang isa or ang papa kay naay hemophilia, and then ang mama kay normal. So these are the possible kanang offsprings that they would produce. A son that is normal, a daughter that is a carrier, kibali two sons that are normal, and then one daughter that is a carrier. Okay? So that's how it's being passed on from generation to generation. Okay, the last one is Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's a type of muscular dystrophy. Dagan ni sila, guys. I think Pompe's disease is one example, but Duchenne muscular dystrophy is one of the most common. So a person with this kind of genetic disorder suffers progressive weakening and loss of skeletal muscle. And then a defective version of the gene that codes for a muscle protein causes this disorder. Kibali, a person with DMD or Duchenne muscular dystrophy kay one of its genes that codes for muscle protein kay defective. Okay? So pasabutan na iyang mga muscles kay weak compared nimo sa people with people that are normal or don't have DMD. So the progressive muscle degeneration and weakness causes the muscle tissues to break down over time. So, di ba, if you could remember in your elementary, kung unsa ka-importante ang function sa muscular system, di ba, it serves as form and shape of the human body. So, imagine na daw ninyo class ng inyong muscles kay gaka-weak siya over time and it breaks down. The muscle tissues break down and they are eventually replaced by fat deposits. And take note, fat deposits are not ideal for body form and shape. Fat deposits or adipose tissues are for temperature regulation. Okay? It also serves as cushion, as protection for your organs or internal organs. But they do not play important roles in body form and body shape. Okay? So that's why children or patients with DMD, they cannot in worst case scenario, no, they cannot stand on their own. They have to be supported. That's why most of them are in wheelchairs. Okay, again, weak ang ilang muscles. The main symptom of a person with this disorder is muscle weakness, accompanied by difficulties with motor skills. So some of them you might have encountered children with this disorder na naiuban sa ilang kanang kumagdagan-dagan bitaw sila kay kalit lang sila matumba or dali ra kay sila madusmo. It's because of their inability it's because of their difficulties with motor skills. Okay, so this is an illustration of children children or a child with DMD nga kanang starting from early age until kanang onset of the disorder, early onset of the disorder. So from 2 years From 2 years of age, you won't notice any difference, minimal or no symptoms at all. But when they reach a particular age, like for example, if mopo na sila 80 years, you could see nga hinay-hinay nagaka-deform ang ilang body because again, that's because of the weakness of the muscle. And then as they reach the age of 15, this is how they would probably look like. Okay, they always end up in wheelchairs because again, they cannot support themselves. So that's the MD. Okay, so we're done. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you were able to finish throughout the lesson, throughout the video. If you didn't understand a thing, you can watch it again, or if wala pagyapon mo kasabot, you can list down your concerns so that we can talk about this during our sync classes. Okay, so aside from watching this video, please read your lesson packets. So I might have mentioned some things na wala na rin nga naka-assign yung lesson packet. So please do. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on our next video. Bye guys!